Hey guys, welcome on into Athletes Unplugged. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks. Now, a couple weeks ago, probably about a month ago, we were so fortunate to be able to have World Cup champion U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer Abby Wambach on the show with us. We talked about a number of issues, very empowering, also a lot of fun. And we were going to run that interview. But then in the wake of everything that has happened with the murder of George Floyd and so many really powerful protests and messages across the country, we felt that it would be a disservice to both Abby and Athletes Unlimited if we didn't have her strong thoughts and opinions on this topic and if we didn't talk about it. So we'd like to welcome in U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, World Cup champion, two-time Olympic medalist, Abby Wambach. Abby, right now the conversation is so pivotal around racism in the United States and something that has been going on for far too long. What have the last couple weeks been like for you?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I think it's awesome that Athletes Unlimited and you wanted to be sensitive, right, around what is happening in the world that we are all living in here in the United States and even abroad. There are so many things that I think, so many opinions that I have, and I think that the most important thing that I've learned, and not just over the last couple of weeks, but actually over the last many years, there are so many unfortunate things that have had to happen for this conversation to truly take hold like it has, for the protests to take hold like they have, for the voices to be heard like they have. And I think that there's a feeling in my mind and heart that there's a tipping point happening. Mm-hmm. Compounding with all of this, I have this idea in my head of what it was like to represent my country. I have this idea of what the United States of America means. And here's the thing, I'm fiercely patriotic. And I've said that my whole career. I love the fact that I was born and raised in the United States of America. I loved representing my country more than maybe any teammate that I had. I'm very proud of my career. But I have to get really honest with myself, because all of that in many ways is wrapped up in my own privilege and my own white supremacy and the ways in which I have experienced this world, which is vastly different than the way Black people have experienced the United States of America. There's some real education that has to happen, and then an unlearning process. I think that that all of this stuff, people are saying, well, I can't believe that all of these Black people are getting killed by police. And it's like, actually, no, they've always been getting killed by police. We just now have cell phones. We just now have videos. So it's literally we're able to actually see what's been going on for centuries in our country, since the beginning of our country. Right. There's some real movement happening, and I'm proud of that. It's heartening to see what kind of progress that I feel energetically is happening. This is, I think, one of the first civil rights movements that is, white people are showing up for Black people. Mm-hmm. And you haven't really seen that in the way that we're seeing that now. And it's devastating. There's so many parts of this that are devastating for our country. But I think that there has to be a level of devastation that goes into the rebuilding something new and something more beautiful that we can all be proud of. I think that that's been really a missing link, is that this country has been something that only a few of us have been able to say out loud that we are proud of. And that's my reckoning.
Being Canadian, of course, I don't necessarily know. I wouldn't know what it's like to represent the United States. And I can see how that's got to be, kind of like an interesting dichotomy for you, where you've had this really amazing experience with America, but now you're kind of seeing like the cracks in it. What are maybe some of the messages that have stuck out to you in terms of maybe what this country needs to fix, like how they would do that?
Yeah, it's like when you start to actually educate yourself around this topic, and you start to see things for really what they are, you can understand and see how every institution and system that's set up in our world needs to be fixed
Yeah.
and needs to be completely reconstructed. I mean, let's just take, for instance, in my specific space in sports, we have a pay-to-play system. And what that means is folks who've got money can send their kids to play sports, and folks who don't. As a soccer player and an ambassador and a Hall of Famer, what can we now do better? Because when you know better, you do better. Mm-hmm. And I think that that is something that I want to be a part of in terms of change. I'm a solutions person. And before I get to those solutions, I needed to do some real deep understanding and educating myself. You know, a lot of people ask me these questions, you know, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. And I don't have the answers, but I do think all the systems need to change. I do think if we really want to do this work and we really want to tackle racism, I think every white person has to actually be able to define it. If who you are and what you believe doesn't ring true with the person that you want to be, then you've got to do the work. We got to keep protesting. We got to keep doing the work, and small things that we each individually can do, right? Like create non-negotiables for yourself, like what you will not stand for in your business, at your work. Ask your bosses hard questions. Why don't we have more people of color? Why don't we have more Black people specifically who work here? And most importantly, why don't we have more Black people in leadership?
Right. U.S. soccer, in the wake of when Colin Kaepernick kneeled, in the face of criminal justice reform and all that, and Megan Rapinoe did as well, there was that policy that was put in place that now has been wiped out, that, you know, players can kneel if they want to during the anthem. How do you feel about them getting rid of the policy, but also on the other side, them having had the policy in the first place?
Yeah. Well, like hindsight's 2020. The world is always going to be progressing, period. Like we are always, sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's fast. You know, it looks like Megan Rapinoe is a little bit of a, she can see into the future kind of a person. And I think that it's interesting because I remember when she first started kneeling, I felt scared. I felt like, I don't know what I would do if I was in this position, if I was still playing. I felt relieved that I wasn't in the position to have to make that choice. And I think when Megan, that fear, that initial fear that I had, it was not only for her, but it was also because I didn't understand. I'm a white person. How the heck am I gonna understand a Black person's experience? So I've dug in, and I think about Colin Kaepernick and I think about Megan, and they're heroes not because they're good at their sport, but because they stand for something that is more important than their sport. They stand for bringing people together, even though it looks on the surface like it could at times look divisive. Like, oh, it's them trying to stick their necks out or trying to create a name for themselves. But what Megan and Colin have literally done is put their whole careers on the line for the good of humanity, for the good of progress. But I think that what Megan was able to do was get me to do some real digging and uncovering on what it was about the flag, what it was about my indoctrination to being a United States citizen. And when you compound that with being a Hall of Fame player, a representative of this country, a captain, a leader, a gold medalist, an Olympian, like all of these things made it like harder for me to see it first and foremost. But Megan and Colin are just like nothing short of heroes in my mind. To understand on a deep level that when you stand for that flag and you put your hand over your chest, you're standing and putting your hand over your chest from your eyes, from your perspective, from your life, the life that you've been given. And if you are white, you are privileged. So of course you're going to stand proud. And I don't blame any other person for wanting to kneel. Your experience is different. And myself, if this happens to me today, if I'm suiting up for Team USA, You're damn right I'm kneeling, especially because it's a United States team. I'm representing the entire population. And if I'm not doing right by every single person as a representative of Team USA, then I don't deserve to be on that team. And Megan she truly did show that she is more patriotic than maybe any other women's national team player that has ever lived.
What you've described about the confusion that a lot of people had with the message being sort of distorted, that, oh, this is against the flag and this is a negative for that, where it was for a completely different idea of needing to fix a problem in America so that you would want to stand. And you put it very well, just, yeah, two different, more than two, but different experiences with how you feel about the country and how prideful you are with it.
My hope and my dream is for all of us to be able to find ways to communicate so that we all can learn, because I'm not perfect and nobody's perfect. There has to be space for both sides to make mistakes and to learn. But before you say anything online or even out loud, do the work, do the personal work, find out for yourself what you believe. Go look at the facts.
What can soccer do to be more inclusive, other than what you mentioned with pay to play? Like, what else needs to happen?
Yeah, I mean, we have to figure out ways to reach every kid. Yes, soccer is the most played sport on the youth level in the United States. So what is happening throughout the history of these kids? Do we have these little black kids running around trying out for these soccer teams? At any point, are we losing them? Obviously, U.S. Soccer needs to invest in areas and in places that can ensure this wealth gap that prevents many black kids and many black communities from having teams, from being able to play these sports. And that's an important investment. You know, you're too late if you are just starting now to think about this, right? So these are investments that can't be just checking the box exercises. It has to be real dollars and real time spent encouraging and recruiting kids from every part of this country. I would love to get more statistical information and to get more into the weeds on this, because it's huge. And I think that this is where my expertise lies. So for me, I'm just still doing my own personal stuff with my own uncovering and my own understanding of what this all means, what real white supremacy means with my family and my wife, right? Because that is where it has to start and begin.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed our conversation with World Cup winner, U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, two-time Olympic medalist Abby Wambach on the issue of racism and racial inequality. And perhaps it's inspired you to look deeper into yourselves, look into your actions, your thoughts, how you were brought up. A lot of the things that we've learned and that we know aren't right. And it's being able to acknowledge that, find the problems, and then do the work on how to fix it. And this isn't going to happen overnight. This is something that's going to take our entire lives and our entire experiences and our beings to be better and to fix this, because it's gone on far too long, and so many people in America and beyond have been marginalized based on their race, and that's wrong. So we thank Abby for her always empowering, encouraging words on this issue. And she also talked to us, as I mentioned before, about her experiences as a soccer player, as a World Cup champion, and her thoughts on equal pay as it pertains to the U.S. women's national team. We also had a lot of fun, and that's a conversation we're going to release at a later date. But make sure that you stay tuned in to Athletes Unplugged, because we are having some incredible conversations with some amazing athletes and people beyond the sport. Take care, guys. We'll see you next week.